Hello and welcome to my channel In Search of Wonder. My name is Anne and this is my weekly reading wrap-up. I actually have tea today. This tea is described as an herbal tea with peppermint and cocoa in it, and it's really delicious. It's very hot at the moment because I just made it. And I have been guzzling the tea lately because I have this cough that my son gave to me so generously. And yeah, just trying to get rid of it. So doing all of the things, including drinking the hot tea. Also, I have been doing the Christmas reading. So I hope you like hearing about Christmas books because that's what you're going to hear from me for the next couple of weeks because I am all in on the Christmas reading this year. I've been looking forward to it. I had set some books aside for Christmas to read at Christmas time, and now I am going through them one by one and enjoying each one immensely. Whether or not I actually end up loving the books, I'm enjoying the Christmas reading. So it's been a lot of fun. First of all, you know what? Let's do something a little different and let's talk about what I currently have in progress. Today is Wednesday, by the way, and so I may be able to film another clip later this week. So this is just a kind of state of affairs where I am at the moment. So I may have more to say about this one later, but I am reading A Vintage Christmas, and this works perfectly for the Vintage Christmas readathon that Mitzi is doing. And this is a collection of classic stories and poems written by authors and poets such as Louisa May Alcott, Charles Dickens, Ella Montgomery, Mark Twain, etc. I've read most of the stories at this point. Some of them, like a lot of them are from, you know, the Victorian era. And so they have that strong, like kind of moralistic overtone, especially if they're written for children, which some of them are written for children, obviously, and then some are not. Louisa May Alcott had two in here. I really liked her story, A Country Christmas, which I think I may have talked about in my last weekly reading wrap-up, so I won't go over that again. And then Lucy Maud Montgomery had several stories in here. One which I had read before, so I just skipped that one, actually. I read that last year. Christmas at Red Butte was... that was a fun story. It was about a girl who she thought her brother had died in the war, World War I. I think he had been on the African front. And so she was left to be raised by her aunt and uncle, and her uncle passed away and her aunt was doing her best to keep the family alive and thriving and everything, but they were not doing well. And so she was expecting to have a very poor Christmas. She was going to sell the locket or something that her brother had given her. It was like her most treasured possession. She was going to sell that in order to buy gifts for her cousins. And then, anyway, I won't tell you what the ending is in case you read it again, but it's a really sweet Christmas story. Oh, and then The Christmas Mistake was a fun story about two women who had an old feud, and so they didn't speak to each other, and then the one woman was more well-to-do than the other who was poor and, you know, had fallen down on hard times. And so she, the well-to-do woman, sent a message to invite someone to Christmas dinner at her house. But the well-meaning messenger was a little absent-minded and invited the wrong person, who happened to be this person that she had been at odds with for many years. And so they came to the party instead. But it was just sweet how everything worked out. William Dean Howells, I don't know anything about him as an author. There was a story called Christmas Every Day, and that was definitely like a children's moralistic kind of story about a little girl who wishes it could be Christmas every day. Sounds like a song. Ooh, I wish it could be Christmas every day. Anyways, the father tells a story about what it would be like if she actually had Christmas every day and all of the things that would happen. So that was a sweet story. Harriet Beecher Stowe, which I've only read Uncle Tom's Cabin by her. She had a couple of interesting ones in here. One was called Christmas in Paganuc. Don't know how to say it. P-O-G-A-N-U-C. And it is based on Litchfield, Connecticut, where she grew up. And apparently she has a full-length novel based there. And so this Christmas story is a short story that goes along with the characters in that novel. So I felt a little bit like I didn't know what was going on. But what was most interesting to me is that there clearly was like this pitting against each other of Calvinists, or I guess Presbyterians versus Episcopalians, and the Calvinists slash Presbyterians, they did not celebrate Christmas, but the Episcopalians did. And so this little girl, Dolly, she's like kind of like caught in the middle in a sense. And it was very interesting. It was about her experience with Christmas 2 years as a young girl and the different ways that it was handled in the two different communities that coexisted in the same town. It was kind of interesting. And then Charles Dickens, A Christmas Dinner. I just finished that one today. And that was like more like an essay. It was really, really good. If you have a chance to read that one, I really enjoyed that one. The opening of it was very poignant. It was about how when you have a family gathering at Christmas and there maybe is a chair missing, or someone who's there is not what they were before, maybe something has been lost in the year since the last gathering, or maybe the gathering isn't as nice because people are, the economy has taken a downturn or not able to afford as much, whatever. But if for some reason you're feeling lost this Christmas, that whole section of his essay / story was exhorting you to focus on what you do have, the blessings that you do have, and to give thanks for them and to find joy in where you are this Christmas, no matter what you might be missing. And it was just really beautifully put and didn't come across as preachy or moralistic or scolding. It was just really eloquent and poignant, and I really liked that part. And that was the last one I read. So I have a few more stories, and then the rest are poems, some of which I know I have read before, and some I have not. So I'm getting close to finish this one, and I probably will have another clip later this week to talk about the rest of them. Sorry about my voice. It's worked fine all day. I sat down to film this video and it's like all disappearing on me. But anyways, then I finished 2 books this week that I also wanted to talk about. The first one was Christmas at Sugar Plum Manor by Roseanna M. White, which might be one of my most anticipated reads for this Christmas. It's a new book that was released this year. Roseanna M. White is one of my favorite authors. There's a couple of her books I haven't enjoyed as much. Some I downright disliked, but I do love her writing and I love her characters. And I just love the way she tells a story. She can really tell a story. And The Sugar Plum Manor was no exception to that. It is a charming, delightful story. It does have some depth to it. It's not just, a fluffy Christmas romance kind of book. There's definitely some depth to it, although it is very charmingly told. The main character is a very lighthearted sort of character. There's not a great deal of actual angst that happens in the story, although there is depth of character, and yeah, there is some depth to the storyline as well. Everything gets resolved very easily and overly efficiently because it is a novella, but it's well written, it's engaging, I loved it, and it features some of my favorite themes of enchantment and wonder and sparking the imagination and the importance of the imagination. In fact, how the imagination is just as important to the soul as the practical things of food and clothing are to the body. And that is a huge theme for me, and something, as my channel name implies, that I love to see in a book. And I really enjoyed that aspect of the story. I enjoyed the 2 main characters in the story as well, and also like the side stories of the various other people who were in the story. Christmas at Sugar Plum Manor by Roseanna M. White. I guess I probably would rate it 4 or 5 stars. And then this one was a bit of a downer after that. So, and it actually has taken me like a whole week to read this, which is silly because it's a little book, a little romance. Winter Wonderland by Elizabeth Mansfield. It's actually, I believe, part of a series, which I've not read the other books in the series. And you can read it as a standalone. I think each of them would be a standalone. There's like 4 brothers, and I think that all of the books tell the brothers' stories, I think. I'm not 100% positive about that, but that's what it seems like. This one is set at Christmas time with the youngest brother, Barnaby. And we start with a flashback to when he was 19 years old, and he received this set down from this proud, arrogant, flirtatious girl that he was enamored with. And it was a very public set down that was not really deserved. And so he consequently swore off women, basically, and it just really changed him as a person. And it was like kind of like a defining moment of his life, I guess. And then later on, they meet up again. So it's kind of like an enemies to lovers trope. She doesn't remember the incident. He can't think of anything but the incident. And so he treats her very rudely. And she doesn't know why she treats him rudely, because she can observe that he is unfailingly polite and kind and even compassionate and generous with other people. But with her, he's always at a minimum reserved, but even more than that, downright rude and antagonistic towards her. And so she finally finds out why. And anyways, and then in the end, they end up together. You know they're going to from a mile away, right? It's not a spoiler. But I don't know. I think I'm going to give it 2 or 2.5 stars because the writing was fine. For a romance novel, it was fine. I don't have any issues with that. I have issues with the plot, first of all. So a little bit with the plot. There's like meddling sisters-in-law. There's like an engagement that should never happen. It's kind of like a rebound engagement kind of thing. And so those things in and of themselves wouldn't bother me. But in this case, they just seemed like contrivances, I guess. I don't know. But the bigger issue for me was the one thing that I can't stand in a romance novel. And that is an automatic, okay, this incident will pull down the whole book for me if it happens in a book. And it does happen with a frequency in romance novels that is counter to the frequency with which it would occur in real life, because I feel like it doesn't ever occur. And if it does, who are you people and why? Why would you? So what I'm talking about is this. In this book, there is a rage kiss scene. And so a rage kiss is what I call, I don't know if that's what everybody else calls it, but it's what I call when someone is like, it's usually the man is like bubbling up with anger or jealousy or some sort of very strong negative emotion towards the woman, but it gets kind of like all mixed up with his feelings of love and or interest, whatever, or physical attraction for the woman. And so then in his anger, like he's like mad and like they're in the middle of an argument, and so then he kisses her because he's mad. And I don't get it. Like, who kisses someone when they're mad at them in the middle of an argument? I've never done that, and nobody's ever done that to me. Praise the Lord, because I would haul off on them, and that would never happen again. Yeah, no. Who does this? Like, is this some sort of aspect of human behavior that I am just completely blind to? Like, do people actually do this? Like, if you're mad at someone, is it your impulse to go passionately kiss them? Like, it doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. And I can't stand it when I come across it in a romance novel, because it's just, in a word, stupid. Like, people don't do that. And if people do that, then I don't want to know those people, okay? Because that's just troubling, all right? So first of all, there's a rage kiss. But if that's not bad enough, it is an unappreciated rage kiss to start with. And so, like, in the scene, it describes the girl, like, she's literally like, let me go, like pounding on him and like not wanting to be kissed. But he persists. Hello. That's just, should not be happening. And it would be one thing if it was later on, like, resolved between the two characters, like they actually talk about it and discuss. And like, maybe if the guy were to admit, even to himself, I shouldn't have done that. That was wrong. That's not, maybe they get kind of close, but no, it doesn't really happen. They both look back and think about it and about what happened, but he doesn't necessarily, he looks back at it with confusion and like kind of a little bit like, why did I do that? Because I shouldn't, like, she's not the one for me. She obviously hates me or whatever. And then she's looking back at it and thinking, oh my goodness, he kissed me. No. And then what's worse is, so after he is rage kissing her and she doesn't want him to be, but he persists, then all of a sudden she likes it. And that is just the cherry on top of the worstness. Like, you could not ask for a worse kissing scenario to be in a book than that, in my most humble opinion. Ridiculous. And not cool. And not enjoyable to read about also. And hardly believable, in my opinion. I mean, again, maybe there are people like that. Maybe that could actually happen in a scenario between two people. But if it does, you need counseling. I'm sorry. If that happened to you, or if you were a participant in a kissing scene like that, you need counseling. Because that's not okay. Not at all. Not even remotely. So that happened like past the halfway point of the book, I guess. Maybe about 60% or so. And I kept reading to see what would happen. But it didn't improve from there. Like up until that point, it had actually been fairly enjoyable. And I was enjoying the Christmas vibes of the story. And I was enjoying where it was headed. And, you know, how the characters were, you know, untangling a lot of feelings and everything like that. It was very believable, etc. But then that happened. And then from that point, it just, maybe that soured me on the book. So then I started noticing all of the flaws. But from that point, it just seemed like, especially the last 15 to 25% of the book, just seemed kind of disjointed with like, here's a scene here, and here's a scene here, and here's a scene here. And we're going to wrap this story up. And we're going to very conveniently fix this problem and very conveniently fix this problem so that everybody can get together. And, oh, this character is going to behave in a way completely unlike their usual self. And then this person, same thing, but in a totally different way. It just, like, the characters were behaving strangely. There wasn't very strong characterization in the book to help you really get to know them. So, yeah, those are my thoughts about that book. And so this first clip for the week has already been 20 minutes. I don't know how much more I will get read this week. December is like, so busy. So, basketball season just keeps me on my toes. And my husband especially, he's had the brunt of it this time around. But I've had my fair share. So plus with all the Christmas stuff and Christmas parties and church Christmas events and all the Christmas things. We'll see what else I get read this week. I should finish this and I will be back to finish up that one. And next, I'm going to pick up A Winter by the Sea by Julie Klassen and read that one. And also on deck, I have Southern Snow by B.R. Goodwin. So I'm looking forward to indulging in those books this week, but I highly doubt, I know for sure I won't get Winter by the Sea done. It's kind of long. And I know from experience, Julie Klassen's books tend to be pretty slow moving. So I don't think it will be the kind of book that I will finish in the next couple of days, but we'll see. I could be surprised and we'll find out. Anyways, so I will see you next time. Bye. Hello, it is Saturday evening and I opted out of a birthday party because I am still not quite feeling well. And I was actually working for my sister earlier today and was just getting worn out. So I came home to rest. So I've been relaxing all evening and just doing some very light housekeeping because it's got to happen at some point. But I'm also going to take a minute here to wrap up this weekly reading wrap up and share my thoughts on A Vintage Christmas. I've already mentioned quite a few things about it, so I don't need to say too much more. And I actually haven't 100% finished it, but all that I have left is some of the poems in the back, and I'm going to read those by tonight. So by the time you watch this, this will be done. And I really enjoyed it. I had only read one of the stories in this book before I had bought this one. So it's a collection of, okay, I feel like I'm doing this very poorly. This is A Vintage Christmas, which is a collection of short stories and poems by classic authors. Most of these stories were set in the 19th century, a few of them in the early 20th century, and they're all set at Christmas time. They're mostly just, you know, the traditional Christmas short story, sweet stories that kind of evoke the ideals of Christmas time and from a variety of angles. And they're just fun to read in small doses. And I can imagine this would be really fun to read by a fireplace in the evening every night in December. If anybody has that sort of idyllic lifestyle where you can do that. We're here in the middle of basketball season. Why does basketball season start in December? Why? Because we've got basketball season stuff going on like every day. We've got birthday parties. So many people are born in December. I just don't even understand. I think I may have ranted about this already. I'm sorry. It's a thing right now. It's a thing. So our Decembers are typically pretty crazy. So we don't really have time to sit around and read pretty little stories out loud together. Not to mention my kids are teenage boys now. It would have worked when they were younger, but yeah, I ain't getting them to do that. At this stage in their life, when they have kids, I'll snack their kids, read to their kids by the fireplace. But for now, no, that doesn't happen. I read this on my lunch break, and it was great lunch break reading as well in the month of December. And it is a great opportunity to take a step back and just be transported to a slower time and to just give you a minute to revel in the ideals of Christmas and Christmas time, and to be challenged to think about others and to be provoked to generosity, because many of these stories, that's a key theme in them. And it was just very enjoyable. I highly recommend. I have not read all of the poems, but a lot of them were familiar to me already. So they're just short poems focused on Christmas and New Year's and that kind of thing. So anyway, this was a great book. So I finished that, and I'm still reading A Winter by the Sea by Julie Klassen, and really enjoying that. Definitely, when I had read it earlier this summer, I could not get into it to save my life, but now I am much more in the mood for it. It's set at Christmas time. In fact, just now, they have just wrapped up their 12th night celebration, and so they're moving on into the rest of winter. There's a very interesting element to the story because Prince Edward, and well, at that time he was the Duke of Edinburgh or something. I don't know. Anyway, he was one of the king's sons, and he was the father of Victoria. And so they are wintering by the sea in the same town as our fictional family is set. And they really did winter in that town. So Julie Klassen is basing her story on historical fact, and she draws from actual incidents that did happen when they wintered there by the sea in Sidmouth, I think it is. So anyway, it's really interesting. I'm enjoying it so much more now. And it also, again, it's a slower pace of book. So it's a perfect balance to the crazy that is life. I'm just able to escape for a few minutes at a time into these chapters and just move to a slower pace. And I'm really enjoying that. That's exactly what I need right now. And so that is all I have in progress at the moment. I need to pick up either Agatha Christie or Othello next, or both. So those are on deck for me. And then I just want to show you, I went to a thrift store today and I picked up this book, this little vintage classic. It is Anthony Trollope's Can You Forgive Her? So I'm slowly collecting Anthony Trollope books. I have the Eustace Diamonds, which is the third book in this series, and there are different editions. Like, let me show you. This is the Eustace Diamonds, cute little book. I really love how it fits in your hand. So this is not the same. It's, you know, it's a little larger, a little clunkier, not as cute, but it was $3. It was supposed to be half off. She did not give me half off. I decided not to complain. I don't know when this particular one was printed. This edition, 1977. So, vintage copy. And this is the first book. This is Can You Forgive Her? This is the first book in the Palliser series, and this is the third book. So, it seems like that might be where I start with Anthony Trollope. We'll see, because those are the books that I have. Who knows? Anyway, so that is my little mini haul for the week, and that was my week, my crazy week in December here in Virginia. So next week is also going to be pretty crazy. So we'll see what happens. I'll keep you posted.